For sure. If you don't say we have several more stories.
The legislature was carefully crafted to
22.2% inflation rates as of April this year. What does that say about where we are as a country?
I think Nigeria has resorted to being resilient.
Before you call the police station, before they even leave, they take permission from
I don't think there's really anything on ground to improve.
the struggle, the ASU strike.
Minister of Education volunteered and said, give me 2 weeks.
It was alive. The president never gave me any deadline.
Good morning to you and welcome to Global Television, Global Morning, even of today being a Sunday. Of course, it's a weekend edition, and how are you? And trust that you are enjoying your day, even started from this morning. Well, a lot of conversations even here on the Global Morning, a lot of conversations that needs answers, a lot of conversations that are begging anxiously for answers. Well, we will bring in perspectives to all of this even this morning. But first, let's even begin the conversation by first running you through what happened in the whole of the week, that the week in focus. Now, we know that this week we saw a lot of dramas that played out, from Natasha's Akpoti's issues to that of Osun State Governor trying to seek some consolidation and also embarking on a statewide tour to be able to put things in order for the state. We also saw drama play out in Rivers State, where ultimatum that was given to the Rivers State governor elapsed, and we're still seeing that drama unfold. Not forgetting that we also saw a lot of polity being played across board. But then the week was not complete without we on this tables on the show today saying Happy International Women's Day to all women out there. Say Happy International Women's Day to you. Yeah, although it's belated, it happened yesterday, and of course it was colorful this year. We saw a lot of well wishes, and we saw a lot of women programs, developing programs for women, and this all was how the week was crowned. Not forgetting that we also saw our Christian brothers starting their fasting, which we call Lenten period. It was started on Wednesday with the Ash Wednesday. Of course, the security agencies are not even left even in the course of the week as they were on top of their game. We saw a lot of security outings even this period. We saw a lot of protections of life, improved security network, and of course not forgetting that we also saw to a very large extent that the outcome of some of the inputs by security agencies across board, and of course they played out in the course of the week. Let's not forget to also mention that the week also saw a lot of conversation from the presidency, so implementation from the presidency on major projects, and also we saw more projects approval and more projects being earmarked to be delivered. And the world of sports, of course, won't take out the fact that even Liverpool has brought it home again by doing what they know how to do best. We saw that, all of that, during the course of the week. Well, the show is just starting. We'll unfold more after this break. When we come back from this break, we'll be going straight to the newspapers to see what the papers are saying. Then we continue with the conversation. Please stay with us as Global Morning is just starting.
know that Global Television can be watched in Nigeria and all over the world.
Download the Global TV Nigerian mobile app for Android and iOS devices to watch Global Television real-time from around the world. What are you waiting for?
Start downloading and stay connected to Global Television.
Global Morning is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
A Global Morning aims to deliver newspaper reviews and latest news with experts on key global issues.
And at the same time, keeping you well informed about important events, both national and internationals.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Mondays to Sundays to a wide range of the latest news making rounds on Global Morning.
We're on the road to protest.
And the president meets all of our demands.
This is Global Morning.
Welcome back. We'll begin with the Blueprint Weekend, which has above its nameplate a story here that says don't allow terrorists into Nigeria. Tunde Ojuwon NIS officers. You can find that read on page 7 of the Blueprint newspaper. That's just above the nameplate. Then below the nameplate we have the unforgettable hero Stephen Achama. You can find that on the Blueprint. Also, you have the star story here that captures, that reads, IW International Women's Day, how we are contributing to family growth, nation building, Nigerian women. It has a rider here that says the nation's economy benefits when women work. Gender, page 25. You can find that read on page 8 and 9. I beg your pardon. You can get that on page 8 and 9 of the Blueprint. The other rider says that we are often the glue that holds family together, provide emotional support others. You want to find out the role women play to contributing to family growth. You can find all of those read on the Blueprint newspaper. And just below, by the side of the star story, we have here unveiling Nigerian's Grammy Award winner losers decades after, and they have a list of winners of the Nigerian Grammy Award and top nominees. You want to find all of that out, you get that on the Blueprint newspaper. Now below the star story we have a story here that says the domestic equity market closes. That's on business on Blueprint. Domestic equity market closes lower, sheds 151 billion naira. You can find that read on page 15 of the Blueprint newspaper. Alright, so we have a story here also that says agony as 7 perish in another tanker explosion in Niger State. You can find that story on page 15 of the Blueprint newspaper. Igala's Abdul Raisi and the 16th century war with Jokuns. You want to get the Igala Obdurasi and the 16th century war with Jokuns, what transpired between the Igalas and the Jokuns. You find that read on page 17 and page 20 of the Blueprint Weekend newspaper. Now you also have a story here that says relief as security forces eliminate Lakurawa leaders Maiginu in Kebbi State. You find that read on page 7 of the Blueprint newspaper. Now at the foot of the paper we have Nigerian showcase Tinubu reforms gain as France Nigerian Business Forum in Paris. Idris. Nigerians to showcase Tinubu's reform gains at France Nigerian Business Forum in Paris. Idris. You find that read also on page 11 of the Blueprint newspaper. Do well to go out there and get yourself a copy of the Blueprint newspaper to be able to stay abreast with current happenings even in the country right now. We move straight to the Leadership newspaper, which is called the Leadership Weekend, and just above the nameplate we have a story there that says Tinubu government mourns ex-presidential aide Okupe. Alright, so you find that story on the Leadership newspaper. 30.6 million Nigerians at risk of food crisis by August. FAO. 30.6 million Nigerians at risk of food crisis by August. FAO. You want to find out what is the current state of Nigerians' food supply. All of those stories are there on the Leadership newspaper. Leadership Weekend, you can go out there and get yourself a copy. Now just beside the nameplate, you have here a story that says FGD lies short paying workers salary for January and February. You can find that story on page 19 of the Leadership paper. You can find that story on page 19 of the Leadership paper. Fuel price slash. We won't reduce fares. Transporters. Fuel price slash. We won't reduce fares. Transporters. You want to find that read? Of course, go out there and get yourself a copy of the Nation's newspaper. Now the star story here says financial autonomy. LGA's delaying direct disbursement of allocation. And it comes with a rider that says fail to activate account with CBN. Okay, FG rules out deadline for compliance. Process has been initiated, says Algon. LGA's delaying direct disbursements of allocations. You want to find out how local governments in Nigeria are delaying the disbursements of their various allocations. The 774 local governments so as alleged are delaying their disbursements due to all the reasons. Of course, AFGAN, which is the umbrella body that houses the local government authorities in Nigeria, have come out to say that the process has been initiated. We want to find or get details of all of those stories and stay on the news. You need to go out there and get yourself a copy of Leadership Weekend to know what's going on. Now, below the star story here, we have a story here that says don't issue e-visa to terrorists. Wanted foreigners. FG wants NIS. It comes with a rider set to open borders for terrorists. For tourism economic plans, set to open borders for tourism economic gains. You can find that story on page 7 of the Leadership newspaper. Set to open borders for tourism. So Nigeria is set to open our borders for tourism. You can find that read also on page 7 of the Leadership newspaper. Now, at the foot of the paper, we have a 7 die in another Niger tanker explosion. 7 die in another tanker explosion in Niger State. You want to find out this and many more stories. What's going on in Niger State? Why do traders keep falling on the Niger road? Suleja access them down to Mina and all of this access. What's going on in Niger State right now? But our hearts and our prayers goes out to the families that have lost their loved ones even in this time of the tanker explosions. But you can find that read on the Leadership newspaper. The last story here says Kuka's border, 6 women adopted in Kaduna. Kuka's borders, 6 women adopted in Kaduna. I want to find out details about the women that have been kidnapped and also the brothers that have been kidnapped in Kaduna. You can find all of those read on page 6 of the Leadership newspaper, and you do well to go out there and get yourself a copy of this day newspaper. But what caught my attention here is the fact that the local government LGs, that's the star story here, really caught my attention. LG delaying direct disbursement of allocation. Of course, one will be wondering over the months now since Tinubu's administration, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's administration have come out to say, hey, we want to ensure that what is being provided in Schedule 7 of the Nigerian Constitution has been implemented across board. And by one of those ways of implementing what is written in the Constitution effectively is to ensure that the local government gets full autonomy away from states as stipulated by the Constitution, so as to implement the stance of the Constitution. Now, when all of those dramas played out, when all of those decisions played out, some aggrieved parties took the case to Supreme Court to test the legality of the Constitution. Of course, the Supreme Court had to rule and give the local government a full autonomy. But so far, so good. We've not seen the full implementation of the disbursement directly to local government. Well, we were hoping to hear by now that local government have started receiving direct disbursements to local government accounts. So people within the local government can hold local government authority accountable for what goes on. They become responsive to people at the grassroots. By now we expect to see more local government chairmen being arraigned by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission for probably whatever thing, and we ought to see more accountability and strategy and stratas being put in place to ensure the local government chairman across the 774 local governments in Nigeria are held accountable to their words. But we've not seen all of that. Questions were all over the place trying to get answers to these questions. And of course, we've seen here on the Leadership paper that LGs are delaying direct disbursements of allocations. Now this is a very disturbing scenario. There is a very disturbing story to even want to delve into. Why will you want to delay what has been provided for you to help you serve the people better, to help you better represent the people, to help you discharge your primary mandate, which is to ensure that the government at the grassroots is being felt by people at the grassroots, and by extension the state, and by larger extension the federation. Now, if all of these hurdles needs to be removed so that we can be able to hold local government chairmen accountable. Let's move on to the next paper. We have here the Vanguard newspaper, that's Sunday Vanguard. It has above its nameplate Olufale Bolaji Akiyemi Alani Akinade Femi Okwolu, that's those who Adebanjo's shoes fit. You can find that story, those who Adebanjo's shoes fit, that is the late Adebanjo. So that's those people saying Olufale Bolaji Akiyemi Alani Akinade Femi Okwolu. The the shoes should be able to fit either of them. You want to know what are the pedigrees. Of course, you can find those pedigrees and also what they stand for on the Sunday Vanguard. You can go out there and get yourself a copy of the Sunday's Vanguard. Now, the star story here on Sunday's Vanguard says Tinubu stacks NLC, Afenifere, ACF, Ohaneze, 196 orders floored NAS with memorandum. And now it has a shown here, fear just below the star story. Here it says, fear over bombs stored at Lagos NAF base as darkness persists. Fear over bombs stored at Lagos NAF base as darkness persists. You can find that story on page 4. Recall what happened that it was said there was power outage at NAF, and such officers allegedly went to harass power holdings official in that community, but you can find all of those read on page 4 of the Vanguard newspaper. Just below the star story here, we have a story here that says 2027 deal. PDP governors open up a rumored El-Rufai Obi ticket. Now this is an interesting read. El-Rufai Obi ticket. You can find that on page 5 of the Vanguard newspaper. Don't forget, by the right side of the just beside the star story, you get Ekiti Airport remains a game changer. Governor Oyebanji, page 13 of the Vanguard newspaper. You want to know what's going on in Ekiti State? How come? What's the duration for an airport to be built in Ekiti State? What's the state of the airport in Ekiti State? How many airports are proposed to be built in Ekiti State? And what is the government doing to efficiently and effectively ensure that the laid out plan for modernization of the Ekiti State as an infrastructure wise and every other base is being put in place? You can go out there and get yourself a copy of the Vanguard newspaper to get acquainted with what's going on with Ekiti State at the moment, especially as regards to the airport. Now, just below the star story here, we have International Women's Day 2025. Tinubu government vows to break gender barrier. You can find that read on page 7 of the Vanguard newspaper. Alright, now we have on entertainment. Here we have T.Y. Savage on gifts to sign another artist. T.Y. Savage on gifts to sign another artist. Who does she want to sign? Well, you can find that read on entertainment on page 18 of the Vanguard newspaper. Of course, uncertainty as militants join Fubara Pro-Wiki lawmakers fray. Okay, so uncertainty as militants join Fubara Pro-Wiki lawmakers fray. Now you can find that story on page 7. Interesting read about Rivers State, happenings in Rivers State, all the ultimatum that has been given to the governor. If you want to find all of those, read and get details of what's going on in Rivers State, you can find those reads in the Vanguard newspaper, page 7 of the Vanguard newspaper. Pastor Adeboye at 83. I nearly died 7 years ago. You want to find what Adeboye's story. He nearly died 7 years ago. You want to find that read. Of course, you can find all of those reads on page 4 of the Vanguard newspaper. That Adeboye is telling his own story even at age 83. Go out there and get yourself a copy. Now, treason trial, Nnamdi Kanu prevail as CJ makes U-turn. Treason trial, Nnamdi Kanu prevails as CJ makes U-turn. You can find that read on page 6 of the Vanguard newspaper. How we are expanding gas dominance with new supply packed by MD NNP NNPC Gas Marketing Limited. You can read about Nigerian gas and all of those story on page 14 of the Vanguard newspaper. Don't forget that you can find the story here. Married women abandon husbands for illegal minors. Okay, interesting. You find a story on page 4 of the Vanguard newspaper. Now, lastly, before you get the cartoon part of it, you have Akpabio Natasha not suspended for sexual harassment allegations, Senate. You can find that story on page 6 of the Vanguard newspaper. Okay, so inside the Vanguard newspaper, also on page 12, you find Shobawale. On page 16, you find Iradia. On page 15, you find Bumi. You want to know what's going on about Shobawale, Iradia, Bumi. All of those stories, all of those are captured in the Sunday Vanguard. You can go out there and get yourself a copy to keep yourself abreast of happenings across the country. And of course, once you're informed, you can't be deformed. So go out there and get yourself a copy of the Vanguard newspaper to stay informed on pressing issues across the country. Let me move next to the Tribune newspaper right now, where we have Oyo State. That's above the main page. You have Oyo State people will decide next governor. Seyi Makinde have come out to say that Oyo State people will decide the next governor. Of course, with what we see right now in Oyo State and some of the developmental strides being put in Oyo State, some of the achievements, what said that Oyo State right now is competing with Lagos to a very large extent. I don't know how correct that is. For one, I think Lagos have a lot of competitive edge over a lot of states in Nigeria. But the way that Oyo State right now is trying to cross all the T's and dot all the I's to ensure that infrastructurally wise they are there, agricultural wise they are at the pinnacle of it, and also in all regards the governor has been doing a lot even in the state. So a lot of people from the state have said that the governor has been doing magnificently well in the state. But the governor coming out to say Oyo State people would decide the next governor, it means that he's not going to be a godfather even in Oyo State. He wants the good people of Oyo State to decide who would be their next governor. All of this read you can find on page 2 of the Tribune, Sunday Tribune. You can go out there and get yourself a copy to know what are the modalities being put in place to ensure that all your people are able to decide their next governor. What will be the criteria, and who will be that governor that is ready to outperform Seyi Makinde. Let's see all of those read even in the Tribune newspaper. Go out there and get yourself a copy. Now we have here Atiku speaks on 2027. You can find the writer. He says that he prefers opposition coalition to stop APC. Dismisses report of his plan to leave PDP. PDP governors blast financiers over factions promoting alleged 2027 El-Rufai Obi's ticket. Accuse APC of being behind rumor. You want to find all of those stories? Of course, you can get those read on page 4 of the Tribune newspaper. Now, just below the nameplate here, we have the star story that reads, Akpabio blows hot, no going back on Natasha's suspension. It comes with a rider. The rider here says, declare South won't surrender Senate presidency. Okay, so I'll take that over again. It says Akpabio blows hot, no going back on Natasha's suspension. It comes with a rider that says declare South won't surrender Senate presidency. Interesting conversation. You go out there and get yourself. That's a star story for the Tribune, the Sunday's Tribune. Now below the star story here, we have a story that reads Northern Can leadership crisis deepens. Interesting conversation. Since Northern Christ leadership deepens. Alright, you can go out there and say as Reverend Palm happens to chairman's seat. So you can go out there and find out what's going on, even in Khan's leadership. Of course, we understand that election was conducted and that were brought in Reverend Ayab into office as the new Northern Khan chairman, which according to reports that the former chairman has stayed beyond his tenure, which was supposed to be for 5 years, but they've extended that tenure by 2 years, 9 months. You can go out there and find yourself a copy of what is Reverend Palm saying right now. Are they going to right now know from the world that this will definitely affect a lot of conversations within the Christian faith. Well, you can go and get yourself a copy to stay abreast with happenings in the North, especially within the Christian community. Alright, here we have a special report also where it says how over 20 Nigerians lost their lives in tanker gas explosion in 7 months. You can find that report. It's a sad story though. Just the last one we just heard what happened, and 7 have already lost their lives, and that's in Niger State in the recent tanker explosion. This has become like a recurrent phenomenon and a common decimal factor even within Niger State. What's going on in Niger State? I think the government really needs to look inward and look around Niger State to be able to see what are the root cause of this tanker explosions, so we can find a lasting solutions. Enough of lives being lost in the country. What are the modalities and structures that can be put in place to ensure that we find a balance even on this gas? Well, all of this narrative, all of these stories you can find on the Tribune, just below the star story here. Alright, so we have a story here that says NGML expand gas dominance, sees 20 years gas deal with Sonic. You can find that story on page 23. Now, lastly, we have International Women's Day. Tinubu's government, UNICEF orders salute Nigerian women's resilience. Of course, resilience. I beg your pardon, resilience. So you can find that story on page 5. Of course, here from Global TV. That voice to say we also salute all Nigerian women for their resilience and also for the role they play to ensure that we have a better society for all. But that's it on that for the Tribune. Let's move to the next paper here. We have the Trust newspaper, and of course it's a bit scanty though, but of course there are details that you find here, that pictorial representation and images that tells there. But let's begin just below the main place here. We have a story here on page 8 that says Ramadan timings for Abuja, and brought out all the Ramadan timing in Abuja. So you want to know about the Ramadan timing, I want to know about the sunrise, you want to know details about some of those some of the timing of Ramadan. Of course you can go out there and get yourself a copy of Weekend Trust. Yes, Weekend Trust. We're talking about the Weekend Trust right now. So you can go out there and get yourself a copy of the Weekend Trust. Not forgetting that we also have a special edition on International. They have a special edition on International Women's Day. That's below the main plate here. Also, so we have a story, inside story of Buhari's relocations to Kaduna home. Okay, Buhari has relocated to Kaduna home. You can find that read also on page 23 of the Weekend Trust. Lakurawa Kingpin Megemu killed in Kebbi. You want to know how he was killed, how Megemu was killed, and all of those stories, by who, which security agency did all of this ransacking, investigation, and all of the reports. You can find this report here on page 26 of the Weekend Trust. Now the star story here say parochialism or competence. that comes the question mark, parochialism or competence. And we have here a writer, expert, analyze Tinubu's economic theme. You can find that story here on it comes with a very big picture where it happens that experts our needs. Naira is in the middle of the table, and President Tinubu was represented in an animated form, of course, what seems like various stakeholders like governors and also experts surrounding the table. That's how you know that experts are actually analyzing President Tinubu's economic policies right now, and of course the economic team is being analyzed. So it's been called parochialism or competence. You can go out there and get yourself a copy to understand the dynamics and the narrative of this conversation. Alright, so we have here a story that says Ramadan, how economic crunch is changing household menus. We can find that on page 12. Say Ramadan, our economic crunch is challenging household menus. You can find that on page 12 of the Weekend Trust. Now, lastly, the foot of the paper, we have here drug kingpin jailed for 95 years, forfeits Jeep, other assets. Drug kingpin is jailed for 95 years, forfeits Jeep, other assets. You can find that story on page 25 of the Weekend Trust. And of course, let's get punchy this morning by looking at the Punch with a lot of stories on it this morning. And the Punch here begins with merchant of debt. That's just above the Sunday Punch nameplate. We have here merchant of debt inside NAFDAC battle against fake drug. You can find that read on that about NAFDAC and its fight against fake drug. You can find that read on page 3 of the Punch newspaper. Alright, so Albion drags FG states before court over FAC sharing. Well, we've try to look at that story before now in all the dailies, but then you can go out there and get yourself a copy of the Punch to get punchy this morning. Alright, so we have a story here. The star story says Natasha Akpabio trade wars as Senate fights for reputation. This fight has started since early last week Thursday to be precise. It has escalated, and right now we see Akpabio, Natasha trade wars. Of course, we saw Natasha drag in the Senate president to court, and we saw the president and she addressing the press, choosing one of the medium to talk about our deal. Even what transpired, and now she was harassed and has been silenced. Of course, it didn't take long before the wife of the Senate president came out to also speak, and thereafter we saw the petition being written against her, and she was dragged to court, and some estimated charges were there for damages, and tons of billions were also. All of this conversation you can find to put these issues in perspective and understand what's going on even between Natasha and Akpabio. Some people say, is it just the Senate affairs that is causing all of this rift, or there's more to the story? Well, we can't authoritatively say if there's more on that conversation, but if you want to find out if there's more on the conversation, of course you can go out there and get yourself a copy of the Punch as a star story. Not forgetting that it comes with a rider here that says Natasha fond of traumatic useless accusations. Natasha fond of traumatic useless accusation. Akpabio has come out to say that Akpabio has a previous sexual harassment case. Natasha, why we suspended Kogi lawmaker Senate? All of this trading of words you can find in the Punch newspaper. Alright, so beside the star story here we have Tinubu's endorsements for re-election. A sham. Opposition have come out to say. You can find that story on page 4 of the Punch newspaper. Okay, so we have a story here that says also FG okays 3 refineries for 140,000 barrel per day production. That's PBD production. That's petrol per day. You can go out there and get yourself a copy to know how the federal government is okaying 3 refineries for 140,000 barrel per day. You can go out there and get yourself 140,000 barrel per day production. How effective would this be to Nigerian populace? Well, you can go out to get yourself a copy. You know what's going on. And I have a show here that say why lecturers deserve better pay than politicians. Fashola's ex-aide, Professor Okpe Davis, have come out to say why lecturers deserve better pay than politicians. Well, for one, I would think that politicians is not a permanent seat. It is just probably it's an electionary function, and you're bound by tenures. Your tenure can elapse in 2 days, in 3 days, in a year. Max in Nigeria that by constitution is 8 years. But what do I know? He has his own reasons, and he has stated them in the Punch newspaper. Okpe Davis, former aide, that's Professor Okpe Davis. You can go out there and get yourself a copy and know what he said and what you think about what he has said. Of course, you can find that to read on page 28 of the Punch newspaper. Not forgetting how obsolete facilities turn Kogi Federal Hospital to death house. When you find out how obsolete facilities turn Kogi's Federal Hospital to death house, you can find that read on page 16 and 17. Is Kogi Federal Hospital a death house? Well, I can't answer that right now, but of course you can get yourself a copy and read through to find out what's going on. Even on the Punch newspaper happenings in Kogi State. I also have a story here that says real reasons I opened up on my wife's fidelity, comedian Ijoba Lande. So you can go out there, that's on page 21. You can go out there and get yourself. Now just at the foot of the Punch newspaper this morning, we have a story that says I was called a witch when I had stroke at 23. A lawyer have come out to speak. Well, you can go out and get yourself a copy of the Punch and get punchy even this morning. We'll go for a short break, and when we come back, we'll still be talking about newspapers even here on Global Morning. Please stay with us as Global Morning continues in a moment. We'll jump straight to the Nation's newspaper right now, where above the nameplate here we have 2027 PDP governor denying backing El-Rufai Obi presidential ticket, and that story comes with a rider. You can go out to get a copy of the Nation's newspaper to know what's going on. Unease in Rivers as 2 election agency commissioners quit. Interesting. Unease in Rivers State as 2 election agency commissioners quit. You want to find out what's going on in Rivers State? It comes with a rider that says Fubara to citizens. I can feel your support. Fubara is saying I can feel the support. Comes with a rider there, so you can go out and get yourself a copy of the Nation's newspaper to know what's going on in Rivers State. Alright, so above the nameplate here we have the Star story that says Akpabio Natasha sexual harassment allegation traumatized me, Senate President, and it comes with 3 3 riders. Well, I don't want to let the cat out of the bag, but go out there and get yourself a copy and know what the riders are saying. Now, we have a story that says CBN engage PwCs for selection of 16 new directors. Go out there and get yourself a copy. You know what's going on and what CBN is doing for its selection process of getting new 16 directors to fill in certain positions in the CBN. Go yourself and get yourself a copy. Now let's even see the story. FHC Chief George reassigns Nnamdi Kanu's case. Federal High Court's Chief George reassigns Nnamdi Kanu's case. Interesting read. Go out and get yourself a copy of the Nation's newspaper. Now, just at the foot of the paper, we have here Nigerian earned 13.78 trillion from crude oil in fourth quarter of 2024. Nigerian earned 13.78 trillion from crude oil in fourth quarter of 2024. We want to see how the money came in, how it has been utilized, and which agency is responsible for giving us that account. Well, go out and get yourself a copy of the Nation's newspaper. All right, so we'll go straight to the look at the Guardian newspaper here. It says the Guardian newspaper, just above the nameplate, it says VC's appointment, stakeholders lament absence of merit, assault on due process. Get yourself a copy of the Guardian newspaper. That's Guardian Weekend. Okay, so sunset for matriarch of Nigerian literature, Mabel Shegun at 95. Happy birthday, Madam Mabel. Shegun, you can get yourself a read to know some of our contributions to Nigerian literature in general. Now, harvest of spiritual engagement as Muslim Christian fast simultaneously. What an interesting conversation. Go out and get yourself a copy to know. I told you that the Christian fast started on Wednesday, which marked on Ash Wednesday, and of course the Muslims have been on fasting. What a simultaneous equation! What a simultaneous fasting, and of course it shows that definitely this is a very fruitful spiritual exercise that the heavens will surely open for people that are engaging in this. All right, so let's see the star story. The star story says why protection laws can stain common abuse of children. Now you can go to that story on page 8 and 9. Go out there and get yourself a copy of the Guardian newspaper to know what's going on in the Guardian. Okay, so we will end up the newspaper review right here with using the Sunday Telegraph. Yeah, this is our last paper for this morning. The Sunday Telegraph. Above the nameplate, we have 16 new CBN directors undergo rigorous screening at a PwC. You can find that story on page 7. Nnamdi Kanu's case reassigned to new George. Okay, you can find that read on page 3. Okay, just below the nameplate, we have not loses 33-year-old on custom. Adini first CGC from South to spend over 6 months in office, rejigs operations at Premium Lagos Port. You can find all of those stories in the Sunday Telegraph. Now, it comes with a star story. 2027 Tinubu's tax card against opposition. You can find all of those read in the paper. All right, so we are not funding El-Rufai Obi's ticket, says PDP governor. You can get yourself a copy to find out what's going on. New gas pact to expand NGML dominance. You can find that story. NAFDAC seizes destroy 100 billion naira counterfeit drugs in Ibadan. You can find that story also on the Daily Telegraph. Well, that's it on the newspaper review, and by extension that's the size of the global morning, even today being a Sunday. Now Don't forget that you can join us on our various conversation on our social media handle now showing on your screen using at Global TV NG. Just at Global TV NG, of course, you can join a conversation and never miss out on any of our broadcasts. Of course, you can also keep track of our broadcasts by downloading our app on Android and iOS devices. So keep track of our broadcasts. Should you want to do that right away, you can go to your iOS and Android device and just type in a Global Television on your Android device, and of course you'll keep able to keep track of our conversation. My name is Godwin Sunday. Always remember that peace and unity are the pathways to progress. Till I come your way again, it's bye for now.